how do we build a business that could potentially be sold one day? And through that lens, it's driven a lot of the decisions that I've made.
So what does time and energy freedom mean to you, and how are you potentially achieving it?
I'm not looking to build a business so I can sit on the beach all day and drink Mai Tais.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm joined by Paul Sparks, who is someone that I've been following on social media from afar. I think, Paul, we were introduced by my good friend Devin Robinson, and I think you guys maybe were in a mastermind for real estate or something like that together. But Paul is the owner of a company called Bunny Hill Builds, and he also has something called the Whale Club. I hope I said that correctly, Paul, but thank you so much for joining us on the show, and thanks for being willing to talk about your business.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with this, man. Tell us your story. Like, how did you wind up where you are today? And tell us a bit about what you're up to right now.
Well, I got an engineering degree in college and quickly realized that I did not want to do engineering. And so I was better at sales, and I got into sales out of college. I spent about 8 years doing technical sales, and we call it AI now. Back then we called it machine learning, and so I was selling automation equipment to companies, and kind of worked my way up through a couple different companies as a salesperson, and spent a few years selling in the baggage handling space. Actually, I was working with companies like United Airlines and doing some logistics stuff with Walmart and Amazon and things like this, and was putting fairly large deals together, 5, 10, $20 million deals for me at, my late 20s, early 30s. That was, it was fun. I was enjoying what I was doing, but I was traveling every single week. When I met my girlfriend, now wife, being gone every Monday and coming back on Thursday wasn't the ideal scenario. And so actually what happened was COVID pretty much crushed a massive project I was working on with United Airlines. And so you can imagine I was in this position where it's like, all right, well, now what? I was fortunate that I had started buying some, rentals. Really what I was doing is just I'd buy a house, I'd live in it for a year, and I'd move out. Collected a bunch of those. And so I decided in 2020 to use that as a launching point to go full time at real estate investing. And I've tried pretty much everything under the sun. I built a direct to seller business. We were buying houses off market. I was raising capital. That sort of, helped me figure out, a bunch of Airbnbs, done all the rentals, midterm, short term, long term, all the things. Kind of, went through this process of really just trying a bunch of stuff to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. What my business looks like now is we've evolved into really two types of things that we do on the real estate side. One is we do investments. So we flip houses. We do small development deals. And I also have I transitioned our very heavy investment-based business into a service type business with our Bunny Hill Builds company. So we have about 12 or 13 client projects right now where we do kitchens, basements, bathrooms, things like that. I really like that because, there's really no risk when you're doing projects for somebody else. You take a lot of risk on when you flip houses and you do developments and things like this. So got kind of a nice balance between these two things. And then, you mentioned it. I run a group for 7-figure business owners and investors called The Club, formerly Whale Club. We rebranded that this year. And so, I got my fingers in a lot of pots and honestly trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. So
did someone complain about the whale, or why would rebrand it? I thought that was a great name.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of reasons for rebranding because, certainly we could go into that. But we decided to rebrand it for a bunch of reasons. And, we got about 130 members across the country. Obviously, I'm here in Denver, so there's a pretty heavy Denver presence. But this has, been a really more of a passion project for me. I enjoy having, community and building community and, people that think about business the same way that I do, which is really we're using these things to get closer to the life that we want, right? That's the real reason we do this. And so when you're building a business, sometimes that's hard to do. And so it's been a lot of fun, leading and growing that group.
Hey, what I appreciate about you is your honesty. And right before this, we started recording, you were just, if you don't mind me kind of saying, like, you were just talking about how you guys are growing, but you're not necessarily like, it seems like you're growing, but you're hitting different like lines now, like that are things that you have to push through. So like, tell us about, this is a two-parter. One, tell us your guys' kind of top line overall production last year. So this is the Big Hitters podcast. So just kind of want to get a sense of your guys' gross revenue or whatever you're comfortable sharing with us, how many deals you did or whatever. And then the second part of that is like, what are the things keeping you up at night now at this phase of your business?
I always like to start with frameworks because, I found that they guide a lot of the things that I do. And so I had a mentor that talked to me about something called the rule of 3 and 10. And this was first talked about by a guy named Hiroshi Mikitani. He was the founder of Rakuten, billion-dollar company. And he says that your business will break on the 3s and the 10s. And what he means by that is like when you get to $300,000 in, let's say, revenue, the things that work there are going to break at $1 million. They're going to break at 3 million, and they're going to break again at 10 million. And that's literally exactly what's happened to us in our business, like to the T every single time. So, I can talk about, I'll talk about the Bunny Hill Builds business because that's actually something I'm really, really excited about for a lot of reasons.
It's a great name, by the way. I love the name of that. I don't know who came up with that, but it's a brilliant name. I just love it.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's a lot of effort went into that branding, but sometimes you just get lucky also at the same time. So, what we like the business started because we were really struggling as wholesalers. Like that's a tough business. It's a really hard business, frankly. And, props to the guys who can execute that at a really high level because it's a very challenging business. It's a heavy sales business. And we frankly just struggled with it for a while, but we started getting all these requests from the people that we knew in the business, like, hey, could you help me do a kitchenette in my basement or something like this, right? And so we started this business in 2023, did $500,000 in revenue. Last year we did 1.3 in revenue. This year we're at 1.4 through the first 5 months of the year. So we're just continuing to kind of stair step that up. And what's awesome about that business is it's grown alongside of our flipping and investment business. We don't do a ton of marketing. Our marketing is the flips that we put out. People walk inside our houses and they say, damn, this is awesome. Like, could you do my kitchen? Could you do my basement, my bathroom? So, we'll probably hit, I would guess, around 3 million, maybe 3.5 this year. We've got some big projects in our pipeline over there. On the development side, I was just kind of jotting some notes down because I had a feeling you were going to ask me this. We've got about 14 million in the development pipeline. So that's between 7 fix and flips and 2 development deals. And, what we've really figured out is how to find a niche for ourselves. We flip in a certain price range for a certain type of person. So most everything we do is what I call entry-level luxury. So it's that like $1 million to $2 million price point. So from a numbers perspective, we'll probably do 4 or 5 million in that side of the business. So I'm hoping we hit 6, maybe 7 million total construction volume through the Bunny Hill Builds business this year. And really why I'm most excited about that is because of the long-term utility of a business like that. It's hard to do much with a flipping business. You can't really sell that. I'm interested in building something that has value long-term that I could potentially sell. So I've started shifting more of my efforts to, how do we build a business that could potentially be sold one day? And through that lens, it's driven a lot of the decisions that I've made.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to keep going. What are the things that are keeping you up at night now? Like what's the threshold or the pain line or like I remember before we hopped on, you were like, I'm just wanting to make sure that we can deliver I think you said excellently, like at this high of a level, at this volume.
And, pain lines, that's totally the same thing as rule of 3 and 10, right? It's the same exact thing. You just have this pain line. So when we went from flipping 3 houses at a time to now we have 9, basically let's call it 10, well, everything's breaking. And so, like, I'll give you a great example. When you're flipping a couple houses at a time, you can really just kind of brute force it, really. When you get up to having that many, your documentation has to be so impeccable.
I understand now. I get it. I
Right.
understand.
So now we've got 9 schedules, and we've got 9 different projects, and where are all the trades? And did we get the work agreement signed? Do we have their license and insurance information? Oh crap, it expired last month. Getting everything into one system. We use a platform called Builder Trend. And so, to be able to adjust to that volume, not only did we need different systems and processes, but we needed more people. I've actually had a tremendous amount of success hiring very technical people out of Colombia, South America. So I've got 2 engineers, 2 architects, 2 accountants that work for me full time now. And frankly, that was just a necessary change. So what's keeping me up at night, I wouldn't say keeping me up at night, but what my biggest challenges are is now kind of adjusting to the new speed, and thus adjusting to the things that are necessary to play at this level, which is people and process and things like that. So, that's really the phase of the business that we're in, is trying to get everything functioning and stay on track, stay on schedule, stay on budget, these types of things.
So Paul, time and energy freedom is a really big deal to me. I had a business, my college financial planning business that I started was very profitable, but I ultimately started feeling trapped, and I had a mental breakdown. I picked up a copy of a book called Buy Back Your Time on the way to the mental health institution. And so all of my businesses and things, I orient towards creating freedom for people. So what does time and energy freedom mean to you, and how are you potentially achieving it?
Yeah, I think I spend a lot of time talking about this and thinking about this because, of course, it's really easy to forget about those things, for one. And at the same time, how do I want to answer this? First of all, you got to get clear on like what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. When I hear time freedom, like, I'm not looking to build a business so I can sit on the beach all day and drink Mai Tais. Like, for me, business is a sport. It's like a game to be played, not a game to be won. I don't think I look at it as I want to stop working. And so really what I think a lot about are the parameters under which that I want to work. I think I like to say that the ideal state for an entrepreneur is calm and confident. And so as I'm making decisions in my business, I'm certainly doing things to try to free up more space for myself. I think that's part of how we've been able to move up so quickly, because what I find is the biggest detriment to most entrepreneurs is, it's the white knuckling. It's this like, they're gripping and they're bearing down, and that's, it's harmful on their health. It's harmful to their relationships. Ask me how I know. My wife and I have gone through some shit to get to where we are. And it's like, just because you know these things doesn't mean you actually do them. And so I think a lot about not what I know to be true, but like, what is my behavior actually showing? I'm sitting in an office right now. I had to get an office because what I found was I had a really hard time turning things off. I'd come home and I would just keep working all night. And so when I think about time and energy, I think about like when I'm playing the game, I like to play all out, and creating those just like separations where I have clear lines of what I'm willing to do. I don't mind working 60-hour weeks. In fact, I enjoy what I do. Like, I like to work. So I think I also just gave myself permission to say, like, I'm not one of those guys who's trying to design a business where he's only working 20 hours a week or something. Like, I don't know what I would do with myself. I enjoy working. I just got back from playing basketball. I play basketball every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday night, So there's just things I think I had to learn how to do to recoup that energy. But it's not because I want an escape from my work. It's because it's a healthy balance to show up the way I want for my friends and my family.
Yeah. Hey, you said something earlier that I want to double click on, and I loved your answer to that. But you mentioned and we have a virtual assistant staffing company. Shout out, Virtual Assist. What you just said, though, I think would blow a lot of people's minds. So you have how many people in Colombia? 8?
There's 8.
Okay. So everything from, it sounds like helping you like with technical things on your projects to, I'm assuming, more simple things like handling some of the paperwork or, some of the systems and processes for the projects. But talk to me about your outsourced labor. How did you stumble across that and how are you leveraging it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dan Martell as well. And you mentioned, that book, and that was a huge impact on me as well. And, he talks about the hiring ladder, right? And how, admin, ops, marketing, sales, leadership, that's the right order to hire these things in. And so I don't have an executive assistant, but I have been very successful hiring people to support roles inside the business. So I've got 2 engineers. One is a kind of the operations manager I refer to it as my back office. It's everybody who's keeping everything organized. And so Mario handles our operations. Eduardo does project management. So he's scheduling trades, he's calling trades, making sure everything's moving and we're on budget. I've got 2 architects that work for me. One who does all of our design, architectural layouts and things like this. The other one is actually in a purchasing manager role. We're going to spend well over $1 million in materials this year. And I asked myself, what if we could get 5% cost savings across the board on our materials? Like, is that reasonable? And of course it is. These people are paid at market rate, which is anywhere between, $2,000 and $3,000 a month. And I'm getting highly technical people. I just had a new accountant that started for me last week. So I've got 2 accountants now. But I can't speak highly enough about it. Frankly, they have really like changed my business. It allows me to have, like I said, highly technical people in positions that I can source for a third of the cost.
It's interesting because when we come across the virtual assistant conversation, a lot of times people are like, well, I don't need an admin. And I'm like, are you kidding? They could be doing sales for you, appointment setting, architects exist in other countries. One that's really interesting, Paul, that we've been coming across is estimators, construction estimators. And I'm becoming more and more convinced that this is a role that is just ripe to be outsourced across construction industry. So it's just really interesting. I feel like you're way ahead of the game to have leveraged the technical laborers beyond just the admin assistant.
Yeah, the word estimator is basically what I hired Eduardo to do. That's pretty much what he does. So, the time it takes to walk on site, get a scope of work, and then like, okay, what's the budget? That needs to be so quick when I'm making decisions on flips and things like this. And so basically that's what he's doing for me. He's doing estimation and he's doing scheduling and he's managing the budgets.
Music to my ears, because I've been hounding my team. I'm like, we need to double down on this niche. We need to double down on it, because every time I talk to a construction guy and I'm like, hey, you could be doing your estimating overseas, their minds are like, it's totally
and I'll
different.
tell you, like the biggest challenge that I had to get my team to buy into this, my guys on site, and the challenge is with my team, they just don't, how do I say this? You have to show them how they don't need to be on site to come out and get estimates done. What you need are pictures and good plans, so our ability to go in there and shoot that thing with laser so we come out with a floor plan as accurate as possible. Now you can build your takeoffs. Now we know how much tile we need. Now we know what wall is going to move where, and we can build out the lumber packs. We can build, everything comes back to good plans. And frankly, if you have good plans, you can build estimates.
This snippet right here, this last 90 to 120 seconds, I'm literally just, let me know where to send the money, because I'm going to snip this and send it to my team, because I just feel so strongly about this niche, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, I can tell you that there's every single person that I've hired has made a direct impact, because again, like you think about a flip, I'm spending $6-7 a month every single flip that I have, and I have 7 of them, right? What if you could go 1 month faster? What if you could go 1 week faster? You're basically paying for a full-time salaried person to go 1 week faster inside of your deals. And so, when you asked me at the beginning, what am I working on? this is what I'm working on. I'm trying to figure out how to deliver my product cheaper. So instead of paying an architect here in the US, $15,000 is what I paid an architect to do one of our projects, to design everything, take it through the full permitting process, do all that stuff. My architects make $2,500 a month and they work for me full time. So like immediate massive cost savings right there, making the product cheaper, making the product faster. How do we get faster estimates, not just on our flips, but with our clients? I'm measuring a lot of the, let's just say the status quo for, let's say you hire a contractor that's going to do your kitchen. All right, so they come out there, they're going to take a bunch of measurements, they're going to get clear on what you want to do. What's the time it takes for a typical contractor to turn around an estimate? And the industry standard is anywhere from a week to 3 weeks. And I'm asking myself, how do I get that done in 24 hours? How do we be better than, 10 times better than the industry standard? These are the types of things I'm working on. And then at the same time, communication, like contractors are terrible at communicating. Communicating to stakeholders in flips like private lenders or partners, communicating to homeowner clients. And so everything is just this, I would probably use the word obsessed on like, how do we obsess over getting everything we possibly can into one central site, Builder-Trend. So schedules, daily logs, budget information, pictures, everything. So we can send out automated emails to all of our clients every Friday. This is what got done last week. This is what's scheduled this week. This is where we're at with the budget. This is where we're at with everything. And so those are the real 3 areas that I'm focusing in on, is like cheaper, better, faster. And absolutely, if you're not considering like overseas labor, I don't use the word VA. I do not refer to my team as virtual assistants because they're team members. I refer to them as like our architect, or she's our purchasing manager, or something like this. And so the way that we've built our team is these people are carrying just as much load as anybody else on the team, hold them to a very high standard, and they're all rising to the occasion. For whatever reason, I've had a tremendous amount of success in Colombia, South America in particular. I don't know if it's the education system down there or it's the culture or whatever, but I'm having a tremendous amount of success there. And I like hiring people in my time zone, or very well close to it. I find that I want my people going to bed and waking up at the same time as me, every single day. So yeah, I can't say enough about technical additions to your team, because I've had a tremendous amount of success with it.
I love that. Last question. How are you using AI? Where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
Boy, this is such a buzzword these days, but I find it extremely useful to my business. And I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. And this is like, in my opinion, some secret sauce stuff. Because I spent 8-9 years in this space. Like I was selling this equipment for 8 years before we called it AI. We just called it machine learning. So like what I was selling to United Airlines was basically, I would come in to a baggage handling system, and bags are like really difficult to move around because they have straps, they have wheels, they have handles and all this stuff. And so what we would do is we would have all these pictures, these cameras around the conveyor belt. We would get a 3D picture of this bag and we would make a decision. Do we think this bag's going to jam? Yes or no? Like, what's the confidence level? And the thing is like we would spend 3 to 6 months training that system, teaching it like, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, over and over and over. And so the biggest mistake, I was making this mistake for a while, and the biggest mistake I see with like the way people are using ChatGPT is they're not training the machine. Like, you're just prompting it. Prompts are important, but the reference point that you're giving it to draw the information needs to be very specific and from your company information. So here's how I'm using AI. I've got a Google Doc that's probably getting close to 1,000 pages at this point. And I have that for each one of my businesses. So for the club, I have one. For Bunny Hill Builds, I have one. It has everything from financial information to org charts to job descriptions to project volume. I'm trying to build APIs to dump transcripts. Anytime I speak, I want it, dumped onto this massive Google Doc, so that when I go in and I prompt it, hey, like I'm asking it a question about hiring, or I'm asking it a strategy question, yes, the prompt is important, but I'm feeding it this 1,000-page Google Doc that has everything I want it to actually reference, from not only from my tone, so any podcast or any video I put out, I'm pulling transcripts and putting it in there. And so that's how I'm using AI, is like I'm furiously training the system to have the reference point, so that when I ask it questions, it's not just pulling on random information across all the internet. I think that's important in certain applications, but if you're trying to drive it towards better business decisions, it's got to know about your business. So I'm hyper focused on like that reference sheet, and that's worked well for us. Now the machine is spitting out, it sounds like me. Everybody can see AI when they're using it to make content, and I can spot AI content from a mile away. And it's like,
Yep.
I think the gap is because you haven't trained the machine enough. And I think people drastically underestimate how much it needs to be trained. 3 to 6 months. That's what you need of like work on that Google Doc to really get good information out of that AI system.
Where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
I'll be honest, like I think that, I mean, this is just my opinion. I think too many people are looking at this as like, it's like, I think they've got it backwards. Like you hand somebody a hammer and say, hey, go use this hammer. Like they're going to walk around and look for things to hammer. I think that's the wrong orientation to look at it. And this is just my opinion. I think that the right way to look at it is like, what's the problem we're actually trying to solve? And then what's the best solution to solve that? Not like, how do I take this hammer and use it to hammer all sorts of different things? It's like, do we even need a hammer? Do we need the hammer, or do we need a screwdriver right now? So I look at it from that perspective. Yes, we're using AI for a lot of things to automate all sorts of stuff, but I'm not looking at AI saying like, where can I use it? I'm looking at like, what problems do I have? And then what makes most sense from a tactical solution perspective. So I know that may be a little like contrarian, but I'm not trying to like apply AI to things. I'm looking at what are the challenges my business has, and then what's the right tool to use, as opposed to saying, yeah, there's this awesome tool, where can I apply it? I'm looking at it the inverse direction.
Yeah. If people want to find out more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
I'm pretty active on Instagram, Paul Sparks Official. I try to talk on that as much as I can, about how I'm building my businesses, how I think about businesses. So yeah, find me there, Paul Sparks Official on Instagram.
Thanks so much for joining us, Paul. This is awesome. I learned some things, and I own a dang AI company and a VA company, and I feel like I learned some things from you. So thanks so much for taking some time with us.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Andrew.